Very good evening to everyone present today. This is indeed our pleasure to welcome everyone for our 21st session in our literature series. To briefly introduce myself, I'm the founder of Trends, which is the forum of art, cultural, social, and literary experiences. We have been part of a lot of cultural events and with various corporates, and we have done a lot of fundraisers with a lot of NGOs too. But as far as this lockdown was concerned, we started an amazing literature series with renowned authors. With me is my co-host Shreya Aneja, who's a final year architecture student, and she's also a spoken word poetess. It is an honor to welcome the author of today, Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. He is in fact India's #1 best-selling author, business author of famous Chanakya series, and he is globally one of the top 30 Indian management thinkers. For many people, he is the Chanakya incarnated and Chanakya reborn. Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai is a PhD from the University of Mumbai, and he's done extensive research on Kautilya's Athashastra. He's also MA in Sanskrit. On the popular book side, Dr. Pillai is known for his internationally best-selling book, Corporate Chanakya, which in fact celebrates its 10th anniversary this year. And he's also been the author of other 16 best-selling books in the Chanakya series and also Chanakya Niti. He's been the winner of 2009 Sardar Patel Award and other international and national awards. Dr. Pillai, in fact, is a leading management guru, and he's also the director of the Chanakya Institute of Public Leadership, which is, in fact, a training program for future leaders inspired by the ancient Indian wisdom. With nearly 25 years of experience, Dr. Pillai is a leadership speaker, trainer, and personal mentor who trains leaders and aspirants from various fields, including corporates, politics, academics, and public services. He, in fact, is a certified management consultant. He has written over 200 articles and papers for various magazines, newspapers, and journals. He's given a lot of TED Talks. One of the interesting ones was How to Become Rich, among others that he has given. He is a visiting faculty in various institutes in India and abroad, including the IITs, IIMs, Indian Institute of Science, in fact, international universities, prestigious universities like Oxford, Cambridge. He's been a trainer, he's been a strategy consultant to over 500 organizations like Indian Army, Indian Navy, Air Force, Indian Police, and various NGOs. It's such a privilege to have you with us, Dr. Pillai, today.
Thank you, Neetaji. Thank you, Shreya, for this wonderful opportunity to speak at this wonderful Trends platform. You know, it's an honor because when I was looking at the kind of a work that you're doing, the kind of, the books that you already tried to curate, I was like, wow, this is the platform to be in. And I'll tell you something, probably you may or may not know that 21 is my lucky number.
Oh, wow. So we have had you at the right time.
Absolutely. So I said, wow, that's the right start for me also.
Today you made our 21 very lucky for us.
Absolutely. 21 is my birth date, and 3 is my lucky number, so everything fits in fine.
Yes, Shreya, you'll begin the question.
Yes, so thank you so much for joining us, sir. And I'm really excited to start our session. So just to begin, we'll be asking you a few questions, and then we can leave it up to the audience if anybody has any questions. So just to start off, if you could just give us in brief how your journey has been so far. You were a manager before, and now you're a spiritual leader and a management guru. So how has your journey been so far?
So the journey is still opening out. Every time I try to change my, gears to say that it's too much, and suddenly it becomes bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. So I would say there are two parts of Radhakrishnan Pillai, before Chanakya and after Chanakya.
Yes.
So before Chanakya, a very ordinary person working, trying to get a job, and simple dreams of a normal Indian. But it so happened 20 years ago, I came across this book called as Kautilya's Athashastra. I read it like any one of us, and of course I had a reading habit right from my childhood. So I said, let me read and understand it. To be very frank, I did not understand anything. But somewhere, it was God's grace that I went to Kerala. I've been part of Chinmaya Mission, where I learned all the 6,000 sutras of Chanakya, and look at what has happened. that made me a professor. I did my PhD running so many institutions. So I think the Chanakya journey of last 20 years has been amazing. As Neeta rightly pointed out, my first book, Corporate Chanakya, is 10 years old. And that book actually made me an author and taken me places across. And from there onwards, there's been a lot of books. So I would say my journey can be divided into three areas as far as Chanakya is concerned. The second is basically I am an academician now. So I had an institution, the University of Mumbai, guiding a lot of students in the PhDs and a lot of other research projects. So the third one is that I do is help businessmen and leaders to make them understand the ideas of Chanakya. So I think life is so fulfilling, and thanks to friends like you also make me more and more popular, and I feel like wow, मेरी कहानी सुनने के लिए बहुत लोग अभी भी है. Thank you so much.
नहीं, of course, हम हमेशा रहेंगे. आपकी next book से पहले भी we'll be here and we'll have another session.
Thank you so much.
So, as you mentioned that you got fascinated with Chanakya when you first read that book. So, what was it that attracted you just the first time जब आपने pick up करा and you started reading about him? What was it that fascinated you at first?
So I think somewhere all of us, whether we know or don't know Chanakya, always get intrigued by this personality, And I think in Indian culture, we always say, there are these many heroes who stand apart, Like we have, Arjuna and Krishna story part of our culture. Then we have Mahatma Gandhi who influences our thinking. Then we have Maharana Pratap, and it can go on and on and on. But at the same time, there's one person without him, Indian culture cannot be redefined as Chanakya. And Chanakya is a part of Indian ethos. And, as you rightly pointed out, what intrigued me was, something that we already knew about him, like Samadana Danda Bheda. People know about this. Then, we also quote, which we sometimes misquote also. It's called Dushman Ka Dushman Dost. So somewhere a part of our thinking, there is one part which always looks at, things from a Chanakya viewpoint. In fact, my guru, Dr. Gangadhar Nair, used to tell me very nicely, he said, there is a Chanakya in each one of us. It's only a matter of time that you have to invoke him. हमारे अंदर छुपा हुआ एक चाणक्य है और उसको जगाने की जरूरत है. So that nationalist in you, the patriot in you, the teacher in you, the strategist in you. So somewhere that one part of you is Chanakya. So coming back, what really attracted me was this whole part of Indian history and culture, which has got a connection with Chanakya. But I think the second part was research. Because a lot of people know about Chanakya, but I've been fortunate that I went into not just the historical aspect of it, but did a lot of hard work to study and understand Chanakya and discover the gold mines. The Chanakya is not just a historical character, but he's got ideas which probably exist even today. He is an economist, as a strategist, as a person who could build a nation from scratch, etc., etc. So I think from interest level to research level, that has been what kept me going on in Chanakya.
That's very interesting because considering that you have taken Chanakya and you have tried to put him through your books, and obviously we know that he's such a strong historical figure, so instantly people will relate no matter what the age group. Everybody has heard, we have heard stories as a child, and of course now we know in way more detail growing up. So when you first started, what age group did you have? An age group in mind that maybe you'll make it universal, or would it be specific? So what was that age group that you started to think about when you started to write your books?
I think my age group starts from -10 to 100 years.
-10.
Yes. So I'll tell you why this -10. So my first book is Corporate Chanakya. It was very clearly for the corporates. Right. But in the last 10 years, I've written 17 books on Chanakya. And with the lockdown and everything around, I have almost completed 21 books.
Oh, wow.
So you know what? If you look at all my books, they're all about Chanakya, but none of them is a repeat. And I've written books for students, I've written for children, I have written for young boys and girls, I've written for parents, for business strategists. But you'd be surprised, I also guide the young girls who will be tomorrow mothers. So that's why I said -10. And I'll tell you the reason why. In India, education is not just about going to schools and colleges. Our culture also talks about children being born at the thought level first in the parent's mind. And of course, there is prenatal education. So when I speak to these young boys and girls in colleges and schools, I know tomorrow or day after tomorrow, they'll become parents. But through them, I'm actually creating the future parents of this particular country. I'll give you a specific example, okay? One of my students, her name is Meena Lama. And believe me, she was my student even before she became a mother. Of course, not -10, -5. And, she was married and the husband is also very, very nice, friend of mine. And you'd be surprised. So when she was doing a course in Bombay University, we have a master's degree in leadership science, the 2-year program. She joined it and both of them were the family way. Can you believe the whole 9 months she was attending the lectures? And we had gone to Delhi. We had visited the parliament and, Dr. Vinay Sasrabuddhe, who's already been on this particular platform. Can you believe the mother actually attended the whole course with 2 children in the womb? Okay, and when the twins were born, like I always say, कि इन्होंने चाणक्य पैदा होने से पहले ही सीख लिया. So coming back, I think our culture is not about a specific age group. Like, if you look at the school education, it's like 5-10 years, there is one curriculum. I think it's a flat model. And we believe that, knowledge is from Janma Janmantar. Many people learn a lot of wisdom and knowledge in the previous birth and continue. So of course, answering your question, there are different brackets, different age groups I've written to, but I feel I've been fortunate enough to distill Chanakya to all age groups from various dimensions: family, how to use it in personal lives, professional lives, how to be a good student, how to be good a teacher, politician, leader. That's why I say from -10 to 100 till you are alive.
I think that's very fascinating. And what you said is very important, because not only with the one kind of books, but all kinds of books. That's why reading is very important. That you get that extra edge, and you get, if you've been reading all your life, you have that extra edge over everybody else, and you're able to learn so much more. And I think that is where reading comes in, and that's why we're here at this platform promoting that.
Thank you, Shreya.
Dr. Pillai, I know you read a lot. And so do you read as much as you write? I mean, I've heard that you love reading. In fact, you've been really promoting reading. I've been through a lot of your interviews and you definitely talk about reading. So, so which are the favorite books which have inspired you? And what is one message that you would like to give to all the readers here today, that how much is reading important?
Okay, so 2 questions. How much do I read and what are my favorite books and how do I encourage reading? Okay, you'll be surprised that I encourage reading right from school level. Just 3 days ago, I was addressing a group of schools with almost 2,000 children. Okay, not 1 or 2. And the only thing I know today in lockdown, we are not only addressing the students, the teachers, but also the parents. Right. Where the classrooms have entered your bedrooms.
Yes.
And I was telling them one thing very clearly: convert your house into a library. Okay, so we say we live in a house. So no, you should be living in a library. So spend money on books. That's the kind of a passion I have. And that's a reality. I have to show you something, since I'm sitting in my office is actually a library. So if you look at it, just I'm going to open this. It's full of books. Okay. If you just look at my table, it's full of books. So the reason I'm telling you this is that, I have realized one thing: if you want to be a writer, and I hope everybody over here aspires to be a writer, I think both of you also are a part of that great culture of, promoting reading and writing. But there is a saying that if you want to write maybe one sentence, you should at least minimum read 100 sentences. The same, if you want to write one book, you should have at least read 100 books on that one subject. Why? Because it opens you out to different perspectives. And because I'm in the space of leadership, and Chanakya was a leadership guru, I love this statement which I always promoted. He said, all leaders are readers. So if you want to be a leader, the minimum qualification is to be a reader. So you have to read, understand. And answering your other part of the question, what are my favorite books? I would say, as far as it's book, then anything and everything is fine. So as long as it is a book on maybe stories or poems, or it could be management book, spiritual book, it could be, on aesthetics, it could be on, chemistry, I don't mind. But I love that smell of paper. Of course, I like digital also. But, book opens you out to different fields of knowledge. Of course, my personal books are more spiritually oriented and a lot of Chanakya books, but I'm open to anything and everything as long as it is documented and it is written by an expert.
It is not a very related question, but what do you prefer? Do you write? Do you prefer to read a ebook, or you want to do a paperback, which is still better for you?
So I'll tell you something. It is not about choosing between them. Actually, it's adapting to both. Personally speaking, Neetaji, you may be aware of that we were born in a generation without digital, and we have shifted into a generation which is digital. So if I were to say that choose between the two, I think by habit I like the paper world, but by practice, whether we like it or the choice, we are going into the digital world. So it is not about this versus that. Actually, the reality is this and that. So I would say that I have to be very practical. By the way, Chanakya was a practical person, right? He was not just an optimist or a pessimist. He was a realist. So realistically speaking, the reality is that the next generation, I think Shreya onwards below, I think everybody understands digital first. I'll give you a simple example. I got 3 to 4 newspapers that come to my house every day. Okay. I remember as a child, we used to open out and there used to be a fight among the family members who's going to read the paper first. And today, except for me, my wife and my parents, my children don't even look at the paper, forget opening the paper. Right. But at the same time, that doesn't mean they're not well informed. Okay. So I would come back and say, if your format is ebook, why not? If your format is video also, why not? So I think from reading from text, now we are only talking about digital and physical text matters, ebook versus physical book. But you'll be surprised. Research has proven that 2 more ways of gathering knowledge are becoming very popular. One is video and the next is audio. So let us not forget that there are audiobooks also. And interestingly, all my books are migrating to audiobooks also. As a person who wants to spread the knowledge, there is no limits. Personally speaking, I still like to use pen and paper, but I'm migrating to typing and I'm using voice and videos. So I think a love for paper and the smell of paper is so beautiful that I have lived with those. There's a romance with the physical paper. But I think the next generation need to understand I need to be romantic with the new formats also.
I think it's very nice that you have your books in the audio format as well, because in the lockdown specifically, that has gained a lot of popularity. I mean, there are so many instances of people telling that they are doing their household chores while listening to books. So that's a new trend, and I think that's great that everybody is adapting to that. But of course, even as a conventional reader, I agree, nothing can replace physical books. That is a given.
Coming back to Chanakya once again, I know any of your conversations, we cannot really, go away from everybody's favorite Chanakya. So what 2 qualities of Chanakya do you like the most? And how easy it is to live, digest, and implement the Athashastra?
So the 2 qualities that I love about Chanakya, number 1, he was a great student. And he was a greater teacher. So they're actually the 2 sides of the same coin. So many people say he's an economist, he's a political strategist, he is a war specialist. All this is fine. I'm not saying that he wasn't that. But if you look at the life of Chanakya, which I've tried to very closely understand, number 1, he was a great student. He learned from anybody and everybody. It is said that his father was also a teacher of Athashastra. Athashastra means political science also. So I would say that, the learner in Chanakya became a strategist, and the strategist in Chanakya became a teacher of strategy. So I think these are the 2 qualities. And I think every one of us should be a teacher and a student lifelong. So we cannot say, I am a good student. That means till university, I topped the class and afterwards my teaching is over. Especially in today's generation, learning, unlearning and relearning is a reality of life. Otherwise you're gone. So I think none of us used Zoom before the lockdown, but today without Zoom, we can't even exist. And mind you, it is just 9 months old story. You learned it and it's a reality. So in the same way, Chanakya used to learn from anybody and everybody. At the same time, what I like about him is he was ready to teach anybody and everybody. Think about this, that, somebody like Chandragupta Maurya was from a very, very, not so privileged class of the society. It is said his mother was a dasi. She was from a very poor community. But Chanakya people said that, yes, तुम्हारे बेटे में अगर leadership quality है, if a child has got a leadership quality, why deny it? So I think that is a real teacher. A teacher will never deny anybody who is fit for education. And I've been fortunate that looking at Chanakya, I also become a teacher. Look at this, I'm writing books, I'm teaching the same subject he's teaching. So these are the 2 qualities that I really love about Chanakya, and to some extent tried to live it in my life. Second part of your question, what are the kind of things I have adopted? I don't understand anything other than Chanakya. So I'm just trying to duplicate what he did. So he wrote the books, I'm writing the books. He was a teacher, I'm a teacher. He tried to work with leaders, I'm working with leaders. Okay, so I think there is a lot of dust about that golden personality that has fallen on me. And definitely, people have given me the credit of being Chanakya. I said, thank you so much, but how can you degrade such a great man? But the thing is that, I'm not Chanakya reborn. I'm not, reincarnation. All this is fine, good comparison. But the reality is that imagine you're working on a person who was, a mighty intellect and whose contribution has lasted for more than 2,500 years. And I only lasted for 20 years. But, I tried to leave everything that he was trying to teach. Hopefully, my life has been fulfilled because of Chanakya.
In fact, I
think
was
that's
going
very
through
fascinating. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going through one of your interviews in which you did mention somewhere, though you didn't mention Ikigai in any case, but you did mention that this has been your purpose in life. This is what you really discovered one fine day, and you felt that this is how you have to carry on. So please enlighten us more about that. That what do you think? I mean, you've been talking about that there should be one purpose everyone should have, which forces you to get out of bed every single morning, which we are talking about Ikigai. So here, a lot of your students are here, people who've been wanting to get that mantra, that business mantra from you. So please let us know about the sense of purpose that you talk about often.
Okay, you have actually made me connect to a very emotional level now. Because I'll tell you something, I can see the sun setting. I don't know if you can see it, a little bit of a sun rays. So I've been fortunate enough to have a beautiful view from my office where I can actually see the mountains and the sun setting. When you said about Ikigai, I can clearly remember this moment when I went to Kailash Mansarovar. Okay. And the first time I saw the mountain, I can almost visualize this mountain as Kailash Mansarovar. And the sun was exactly at the same point. Okay. It was setting down. And I don't know why. There was this inner call which says, give your life to the promotion of Athashastra. Imagine this almost like, decades ago. And I was like, okay, what is this Arthashastra? Of course, I knew Arthashastra, but sometimes it says when you're in a spiritual place, something just, comes to your mind and you wonder. And I remember talking to my wife, Surekha, and telling her, the strange feeling says that, I need to dedicate my life to Arthashastra. She was saying that, remember one thing, you're at Kailash Mansarovar, okay? You never know. And believe me, that has become a purpose of your life. So coming back, there's a very famous saying by Sufi saint called as Rumi. Rumi says, sometimes you find your path and sometimes the path finds you. I think I never went behind Chanakya. I was saying that mujhe Chanakya mein kuch karna hai. Maybe Chanakya chose me to do his work. So it is said about Ikigai that sometimes you have to go towards your Ikigai. Sometimes the Ikigai comes towards you. So you have to be open-minded and surrender to God or nature or universe. Believe me, if you're open-minded, God also requires nice people to do his work. So hopefully, this purpose in my life was not decided by me. It just became, the passion for my life. And I'll tell you why I have kept on in this particular path. And that's very important for all the listeners over here. That, you may choose something, but how do you know whether you're in the correct path? Because you may start driving with a lot of passion and you realize you're on the wrong road. I think it happens with everyone. So how do you do that? It also happens that the response that you get from the other side. Like, for example, writing books, people should read books also, right? If I'm speaking, people have to listen. So, all my videos are popular, books are popular. That is the encouragement that I get that I'm in the right path. So it's very, very important to know that you may find your passion, but the passion is not about, it's not a fluke that it just lasts for 2-3 months and saying, let me find another passion. It is not like cooking a dish. We try something new every day.
They say that our universe is like a boomerang. Whatever you throw into the universe comes back to you eventually. So if you give out an energy and you try to manifest that what you're going to pursue is going to happen, then it happens for you.
Yes.
So I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
Coming back to these tough times that we are going through, especially even if, we thought maybe this pandemic is going to last only 3-4 months, and you being at the helm of all the economic, you've been guiding people for their businesses. You've been really, really giving them sense of purpose. But life seems to have gone against all what was practical, or rather what we thought was acceptable. Have you seen your philosophy change now, especially after the worst of lockdown and the pandemic that we went through and are still going through in our own ways. So, what do you have to one positive thought from you, and what do you think about the whole situation?
Neetaji, I would say I never for a single moment looked at this pandemic as negative. Not for a single moment, believe me. And it is not a statement I'm making. I don't know. See, this is a mindset. Okay. And so the same situation can be looked at positive or negatively. But I tell you, the whole human race has got affected. It is not just you and me or an Indian or a middle class or a rich class or a poor man. There is not a single person in this universe, directly or indirectly, who has got affected. But the thing is that our mind is so much trained to look at what has not been done that we forget what transformation we have gone through. I've spoken to hundreds of people, okay? Hundreds of them. And believe me, they're all of them, including you and me, all three of us, have gone through a spiritual transformation. Isn't it true? We have spent quality time with our families. We have done reflection. Just look at till March, okay? We were just running around on the completed homes where because samay nahi milta, we should get a vacation to go back. And today it's like a full 1 year vacation. And I was looking at 9 months, you are actually in the womb of nature and doing all the reflections that was need to be done, course corrections. Of course, change, everybody can't adapt and everybody has to go through a lot of changes. Some businesses have got affected, some jobs have been lost, no doubts about it. But let me tell you one thing, if you look at spiritual side of it, I would say that, there has been a lot of positive gains. Only thing is that during that, the delivery moment, it's very painful. Mothers know that better than anybody else, but the moment the child is delivered, you feel complete. So I think it's the end of, I would say, the whole pandemic. And we see this hope and everybody saying, 2020, khatam ho jai, January onwards, it will be good. So I would say that for all of business people who are very low, I always told them only one thing continuously, continuously. From day one till now, I've been doing at least one webinar per day. There were days when, I used to get so exhausted, 7 to 8 webinars per day. But, I took it on a mission saying that, people are coming to me with, some guidance and hope. And I just told them one thing, come what may, come what may, come what may, please don't attempt suicide. And believe me, people have come back and said, thank you so much, because I know of all these things, Shreya, you were just mentioning about audiobook. I know of so many people who just told me we were almost on the verge of, giving up. And I don't know how you read your book or heard your thing and said they bounce back. So I think I'm very positive about this particular thing that number one, you have to be positive and spread the positivity. So I like to summarize this answer by using 2 words, which I've been doing this continuously. One is called paristhiti and the second is called manasthiti. So paristhiti, kuch bhi ho, and it is not just pandemic. Believe me, even after the pandemic is over, there'll be challenges in life. So suicide doesn't happen only during pandemics, before and after also. But what is very important is that come what may be the outside situation, inside you should be calm and quiet. Most important, strategic according to Chanakya. So it is the strategy that makes it. So I used to always tell people in the pandemic, especially the business community, if you can't go outside, at least you can go inside. Inside yourself, discover new ideas, new plans. I think every business got affected. But the thing is that what comes out of the churning can be very positive or destructive. So I have looked at it positively and have benefited a lot from the pandemic.
And I think, going from here, your answer to how do you feel, we can apply Chanakya's principles to our daily routine, to our daily life? What do you think we can implement to, make us feel better during the day, specifically during the pandemic?
How do you feel that? Yeah, what Chanakya says, what is the first thing you have to do when you get up in the morning? You should actually get up in the morning listening to music. Because music has got a fantastic impact on your mind. So, in Indian culture, we have, lot of other traditional methods of getting up. Some people get up by listening to, some sitar. Some people listening to some Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama. In the South, it's quite popular. Bhagwan ka naam leke utho. In many cities, there are temples. They get up with listening to the temple bells. So coming back, in Chanakya's way of looking at daily life, number one, first thing is start with the attitude of gratitude. Don't complain and then, life, I say, yeah, born another day. Come on, congratulations, you're still alive. So I think the first thing is to connect with nature. So some people meditate, some people remember God, but first thing, don't complain. Second important thing is that after you get up, from a Chanakya perspective, please plan your day. And especially Chanakya is addressing leaders. And today everybody is multitasking. Everybody is multitasking. But we should know our priorities. But in the Athashastra, there's a whole chapter on how to plan your day. It is called Raja Pranidhihi. Book number 1, chapter number 19 of Athashastra tells what a leader should do on a daily basis. So he has to do multiple activities. Imagine the leader is the busiest person. And in today's generation, everybody is busy because of the digital world and connectivity. So on a daily basis, look at it saying that, there is a mindset that need to have positive, divine mindset. Then second important thing is plan your day. Third important thing is very, very, very important is time management. Friends, the most complaint people have is about time management. But the interesting part is that 24 hours is the same for every man. Some people are productive, some people are not. So Chanakya is about management and leadership. So I think every second counts, every minute counts. So we need to be good time managers. But one warning he gives also is that don't be so minute in time management that you forget to enjoy life. This is like what we call a work-life balance. So Chanakya gives a lot of time to read books, what is called Swadhyaya. Okay, he gives a lot of time to listen to music. Maybe in today's generation, go out for a nice outing, do some exercises. So coming back on a daily basis, it's a very well-balanced life. In fact, I would suggest for those people who want to know more about this topic, there's a book I've written called Chanakya in Daily Life. So I would say Chanakya in daily life actually is a complete life. No regrets. You have 360 degrees. Full life is Chanakya life.
Dr. Pillai, Kautilya was a mentor, not a boss. But what would be your advice for today's corporate bosses? A lot of corporate bosses are there today in the room. So why do you think Chanakya's model is still relevant in today's society and especially in today's management per se?
In fact, it's quite interesting to know, please don't call yourself a boss. Call yourself, if possible, a leader who is actually a mentor. See, the word boss itself, I'm not saying that, the boss word should not be used, but somewhere if you look at the word boss, it means bossy culture. Today, if you look at the young generation, who is the largest working force, I was looking at some reports, 66%, of the world is, below the age of 25. And that's a huge number, right? So I think when I'm looking at myself, I'm almost like, not even able to connect to the next generation coming out of colleges. Let me tell you, they don't care for who you are, what your position is. They say, listen, I want flexibility and freedom. And let me tell you this very clearly that, if you look at this culture of new corporates that's coming out, it cannot be the industrial era corporate culture where 9 to 5 is a working time और आप 9 बजे नहीं आए तो आपका आधा दिन salary कट जाएगा. They don't care. And I'll tell you something, if you study, there is this report called as Great Places to Work. And it talks about the most looked upon companies where people want to work, the Googles and the TCS and the IBMs and all those, luckily there's an Indian company also. I really found out quite interesting that what the younger generation wants, there were some top 10 priorities. I was surprised to see actually the first priority for the young boys and girls who are working is actually free food. But I didn't realize that free food and flexible working hours. Third is salary. So, somewhere we were all a generation where money was not there. You work for money. It doesn't care what kind of a job it was. But I think today the young boys and girls don't care for the money. Of course, that's also a priority. But they say, listen, I want to do something creative. I've seen people, quitting jobs, even if they had great salaries, I want to find my passion. And they're ready to go on adventure, take a camera and go on. So coming back, the advice to the new modern day corporate leaders is that you're dealing with 3 generations now in your same company. The people are above 50, they have maturity, they have experience, so use them, make them, better mentors and guides. Then you have the boys and girls from 30s to the 50s. They have the little bit of experience, they have some maturity and they want to make it big. So it's still not in the topmost position. So working very hard. But then you have the boys and girls below 30 and they are very different. So you require 3 different strategies to work with 3 different generations. So you need to understand the old people, they can learn technology, but that's not what their productivity is. So I think if you are a mother and you come back and start working, I think you should be able to enhance the motherhood in you to actually make the whole company feel comfortable. So safety, security is also part of, a good organization. So I think today's leader cannot be about measuring productivity and numbers. Today, it's about creating a culture which is safe, secure, and productive. So I think, especially with the woman force coming into work, you cannot just have, I remember Sudha Murthy once telling, that when she started working, the first problem she faced was, there are no female toilets. I think that's not an era. In fact, I was looking at the national education policy. You'd be surprised to know NEP 2020 because I'm in education. There's nothing written on, girl education. I used to wonder why. Then I realized that challenge is over. Because we were a generation where women were forced and they come on, you have to go and study. Luckily, we are now in that era where that girls have got educated, they are into the main force. So I think leaders should have a very different approach. So they need to always work in 3 time zones or 3 generations. The people who are in the 50 plus, the people who are in the next range of 30 to maybe 50, and then the 30 and below. What keeps them common is give them freedom and inspiration to work, motivate them to work. Their styles will be different, their technology will be different, their approach will be different. So the leaders need to understand this is the common vision that we need for an organization and give all of them freedom and flexibility to do their work. Don't be a boss, be a good mentor and leader. That's where the future is.
$1 million business gyan today, Dr. Pillai. One last question from my side before I go on to the interactive. Really, I know you've had all 17 bestsellers, but we still will like to know about your future project. What are you writing right now? And what is your future project? What can we look forward to now? You've given us so much. What else?
So I'm waiting for ideas to come from all of you. So my life is not about what I want. My life has been to some extent what people wanted from me. So you'd be surprised right from day one, the first book, Corporate Chanakya, it is the publishers who told me, why don't you write? So I'll tell you about the 3 books which I wrote in the pandemic. I wrote a book on Chanakya and the art of winning. So how to be a winner in life. Because actually imagine, it was all about losing the game of life in pandemic. So how about winning? Second, I have also explored, there's a book for children I have written called Chatur Chanakya. So I have written the second part about it. And the third one I have written is about Chanakya's small quotes, so it's all about the greatest sutras of Chanakya. So these are the 3-4 projects I'm working on, but I like to tell you something beyond books. Not a lot of people know me because of my books, but something interesting that I've done is that I've also got into movies. So we're actually producing a movie called Chanakya, and Neeraj Pandeyji, many of you may remember him as a great director, Dhoni, then Wednesday, and he also made a web series called as Special Ops. So we are scripting a movie, and Ajay Devgan is the actor who's going to be working as Chanakya. So I think among the future projects, I think that's a very gigantic project that we're actually working on a film, and I'm heading the R&D and everything, and of course it's a very big teamwork. So I'm glad that the next project is not just about a book, but it's actually the big screen, and that's going to be a worldwide release. One more thing which I definitely want to tell you is that I've been now getting a lot of invitations globally. Now, this global invitation is not just as an author to speak about my books, but the academia is inviting me globally. So I'm going to the best of the universities, and believe me, it's so fascinating to know that Indian leadership models will be taught across the globe. So writing books, yes, getting into movies, but Indian education, Chanakya, Indian leadership is going to be part of the curriculum in many universities across the globe. So I'm almost becoming like a cultural ambassador or a cultural teacher of our country.
I think that is very fascinating, and all of us look forward to the movie, and of course hearing your lectures as well at those prestigious universities. That's very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you, Shreya.
Inspiration, I would say you are, Dr. Pillai. We'll move on to the interactive round. Whosoever has a question can put in the chat, and we'll unmute you, and you will be requested to switch on your video. First, we have Mr. Ajay Juneja. He's a well-known steel industrialist from Faridabad. In fact, he's the managing director of Juneja Bright Steels Private Limited, and he's into manufacturing of cold-drawn wires and bright steel bars since last 33 years. Ajay ji, yes, please.
Hi, Radhakrishnan Dr. Sir. Thank you very much for Neetaji and Shreya for giving me the opportunity to have an interaction with Dr. Pillai. I have been reading his books, and I have gone through his audio also several times. What he was talking is very much sensible, that reading, going to being a practical man. Being practical is that when you are able to spend time by traveling, while traveling, you are able to go through his audiobooks. And that was the first audiobook I was able to go through. And the sound recording was excellent. It was a one CD which was always running in my car. Whenever I was traveling, I never used to hear the radios, or I don't like that music. So I used to hear, the only book was the Corporate Chanakya. And I have learned a lot of things from Corporate Chanakya, which I am able to implement in my organization and in my business, in my personal life. And I am highly obliged that today Neetaji is able to meet me in person, and I'm really very happy to have a direct interaction with you. But one thing which I was missing was that being a practical is all right, but now what happens in the corporate world, most of people leave you. When they come to you, they want to be a part of you, and they learn a lot of things from you. You teach them, you groom them, you bring them to a level. They come at the age of, say, what, 25, between 25 to 30 years. Then they are with you for 40, 45 years. The moment they learn a lot of things, then they want to leave. Then they want to have they want the business exposure they are getting, and better opportunities they are getting. How to hold them? That is one point which I am not able to understand. Second is like what we are into. We are selling the steel or the goods. They are going to the market. People commit you something, and when it comes to the repayment, they don't pay you. Then you are stuck up, and it hurts your business and your growth. So what is the Chanakya Niti to be adopted for these two things? Can you guide me? Which can be helpful to all the listeners or the attendees who are here?
Absolutely. Thank you, first of all, Ajayji, for the kind words that you've been listening to Corporate Chanakya. And I'm glad. Now, when you're asking this question, it is not a basic question. It's a real question. Because after churning Chanakya in your mind for so much time, you must have genuinely thought that iska koi solution hoga. So let me answer the first question, Ajayji. Is number one, if people are leaving, okay, technically, as you know, it's called attrition problem. So people come, they get trained, and they leave you at the moment when it's a real shocking. So you said something very interesting, Ajayji, saying that how do you hold them? Okay, I would say that don't hold them, inspire them to stay back. So if you're holding them, it's become like almost like, yaar, zabardasti. No. I'll tell you. This problem is there in every organization, be it small or big. And the bigger you are, more painful it is. It's like, you have been in a relationship for almost 30 years and then you're thinking, it's more painful. So it's like, okay, in the initial stage of the trainee left. But imagine somebody who stayed with you for 20, 25 years, and it's like a very painful process. So I'll tell you some solutions for this. Solution number one is that, you should inspire them to work and take up bigger challenges. And you should also give them rewards and recognitions accordingly. So let me tell you a specific thing. Even in multinational companies, this happen, okay? So let's say you should actually make a career graph for people in such a way that challenges are higher and rewards and recognitions are also equally good. So in certain companies, I've seen that, when you are in the first 3 years, you are still learning. But after 3 years, if you don't have given a new challenge, okay, then they feel a little bit bored. Then 3 to maybe 5-6 years, give them new challenge. Of course, you should also give them promotion, incentive. That's a very financial thing. But after a point it comes, you cannot only give them financial incentives or salary growth. So the point it stagnates. Then how do you keep them inspired? So a lot of people like this sales incentives and this and all those things. You know what people do? If you stay back and do this, I will send you to Harvard or IIM for a course. And believe me, people actually stay back. I've seen that in banks and a lot of institutions saying that, if you stay here for 15 years, okay, send you to ISB or IIM or Harvard, which is actually going to cost you 40 lakh rupees. But if you stay back, okay, we will pay you for that. Of course, people say, wonder that 40 lakh, okay, 50% pay kar do. So what is important is that you have to understand what level it is. Second thing is that, what is important is that don't just treat them as employees. The more they get senior, you have to make them leaders. So if they are normal workers, give them promotions, give them people under them. I'll give you one strategy. The time is limited. But the moment I see any organization where a person is more than 3 years old, okay, I tell them, you start taking interviews now. At least involve them and saying that let us take the interview together, because they start feeling that I'm also responsible. Till 3 years, you're a follower. But after 3 years, you know a lot of things. So I think it's very important as the organization grows, the level 2 also starts getting trained as leaders. So as you say, in Corporate Chanakya, you must have read, a leader is the one who creates more leaders. So as you inspire the senior guys, they will stay with you, they will stick with you. Second part, I'll just answer quickly about payments. So I think this is a very interesting. I would suggest you to learn the Amazon model. Amazon takes the payments first and then delivers the goods. So our problem in this country, especially for a struggling country, has been outstanding, has been a challenge. And then the credit rates and this like, it's not very easy. I know it looks very nice, but can you move into a model where you are more service oriented, but your payments are under control? So I think it requires a dimensional shift to get that. It's not easy, but Amazon gives you world-class service. But the interesting part is that take the payment first. So the outstanding, as much as you can control and reduce, and your service is excellent, you can make more margins and the clients will also be happy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Last time, but we have Mr. Atul Kulkarni here today. In fact, Mr. Atul ji has been responsible for getting this session through. Shreya, can you unmute Atul ji, please? Yes. Thank you.
Namaste, namaste, Dr. Pillai.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes. So, pardon me because I'm actually at NDA for some meetings here. So just managed to come out and join the discussion. My simple question is yes, everyone, the India, at least we knew what Chanakya is. Everybody referred to a Chanakya Niti or whatever it is. But then what, in your opinion, is the trigger that the world is now saying that let's adopt Chanakya as a strategist? What is the trigger?
I'll tell you, it's a very simple answer. When the people are in power, people want to know why they are in power. So India is an emerging economy. It's an emerging country. We are already the 5th largest economy and, 3rd largest as far as PPP honor is concerned. So it's natural that when a country becomes powerful, people want to know the strategy behind the power. Like, for example, when, the Russia was very powerful, everybody wanted to know why Russia is powerful. When Japan was very powerful.
But while we became, what you are referring to as emerging power or whatever it is, nobody in this country actually acknowledged Chanakya for this. Although he was a silent, I would say, factor and continues to remain like that. But here we did not accept him.
Yeah, so I think I should give back myself a little bit. 20 years I'm trying to promote him at least. So the whole idea was so the whole idea was that the same pain which you mentioned, Atulji, was there. How can you forget Chanakya when everything is growing? And the good part is that he is a real character. He's a historical character who was an economist who made India whatever it is, and his theories are still relevant. We have forgotten him, and I think it was our responsibility to bring back our real heroes. It's a national treasure. He's a national wisdom. So I think somewhere we all need to do it. And I'm very happy to tell you, Atulji, our generation missed to learn Chanakya in the schools. Now being at NDA, at least the young boys are ready to take it. But the first step starts with awareness. And the second is practical wisdom. So, I may make Chanakya very popular, but that doesn't matter. So people say, does it work for me? And Chanakya was very clear. He was an economist. Artha eva pradhana hiti Kautilya. The world understands one language, the language of money.
Money, yes.
So that is why he's a realistic philosopher, a practical philosopher. He's not only talking about moral dilemmas. He is not only talking about dharma sankat. He's also talking about artha sankat. How do I turn around the financial models of this country? So I think that's why Chanakya is very important to bring him back, because next generation should have spirituality as a base, but they should also be materially successful.
Yeah, so this is again, I'm having a follow-up question on that because of your statement now, that do you think because possibly Chanakya is the only one amongst the top, I would say, people or the leaders that we are referring to, is the only one who talks about linking economy with the power?
Yes.
And in that sense, the economic power.
Absolutely.
Possibly the only one. And is there therefore the reason why Chanakya is preferred more over Chhatrapati Shivaji for that matter, if I have to use?
Yeah. So I would say that, everybody who has been successful has used Chanakya directly, indirectly. So Chhatrapati Shivaji was, known as the father of Indian Navy, modern Indian Navy, as they say. And Chanakya spoke about that. And I'll tell you specifically, since you are also connected with the armed forces, if you look at the maritime history, Chanakya has got a contribution in that. So there is something called as Samudra Durga. Okay, it's called sea forts.
Sea
So
forts,
we were
yes.
the first who actually created sea forts across the globe. We had a lot of systems around it. So what you say is that, be it Shivaji, he was a great leader, but he also took input from Chanakya and Athashastra. It is seen that. So I think very, very important is that economic power is supreme power. Artha eva pradhanaha iti Kautilya. And the world runs on money. I mean, let us be very clear that why do we all Indians go to America or many other countries? Because it actually gives you opportunity to develop your talent along with finance. It is not just about brain drain. It is sometimes you wonder whether the brain is in the drain. So can we create an economic situation where all of us prosper and be powerful? I think Chanakya comes there, and we all need to salute that great person for making India the richest country in the world.
So just a last, couple of seconds there, Neetaji and Shreya. Do you therefore think this is some kind of a misnomer to say that we are an agrarian economy? Probably we were more as the traders and into this kind of economic activity globally, and our agriculture was basically to feed our population. But somewhere we got ourselves qualified as agrarian economy, and somewhere downgrading us.
So you actually hit the nail. It is a myth that India is only an agrarian society. If you go into every village, do you know there is something called a temple economy? So if every village has got a temple, and if you go into the temple history, you'll be surprised to know around there are herbs. So we had medicinal properties, not just agriculture, food to eat. We had blacksmiths, we had goldsmiths, we had textile industries. We produced the maximum cotton for thousands of years. We had crafts. So our economic model was very diversified. By the way, let us not forget that we also have lots of mines. Okay, so I think the world came to us not only for food or spices, they came to us for cotton also. So the Britishers took away a lot of things other than just, I think hardly they took, food from us. They took the spices. So you are absolutely right. Chanakya's economic model was very diversified economic model. Of course, the basic is food and agriculture. Because खाने को नहीं मिलेगा तो क्या trading करोगे? But we had exported anything and everything from this country. We were having knowledge export also. So let us not forget that we had an economic model where teachers were exported to the world. So I think it's very important to know this, that Chanakya or Indian model is not just agriculture model, but definitely based out of agricultural. पेट अगर भर गया हो तो बहुत कुछ कर सकते हो. And we're very fortunate that we are a water-rich country. Okay, water-rich country. Today only I came to know that, US one company has started trading water on the stock market. Ram. Except for some parts of India where there's a water shortage, and of course the distribution and the purity has to be good. But we have been primarily agriculture because God has helped us, but we made our economics beyond agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for that extended.
No, glad. Thanks for your question, Atalji.
Thank you.
Glad, Atulji, you could make it in spite of being busy. And thank you so much, Dr. Pillai, for being here today. I have one very special guest, Mr. Vinayak Sapre, who would personally like to thank you.
Wow.
Yes. Vinayakji, in fact, has been an author on our platform, and he's the author for Dohanomics and Kabir Dohe, Advisor Ki Baat Kabir.
He's a very good friend. Hi, Vinayakji. Kasha
Hi,
aap?
Vinayakji.
मजेत, नमस्कार. खूप आनंद होतोय तुम्हाला बघून.
No. In fact, I have read his book. He's gifted me his book. We were together in so many platforms. How are you, Vinayakji?
I'm very good. It was such a great time I am having. In fact, till 4:30, 4:45, I told Neetaji that probably I won't be able to make it. Fortunately, my meeting got postponed, and I'm so lucky I'm finding it. And it was such a value add that I don't have a question to ask because everything is answered anyway. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Pillai, for taking out time. I know we have exceeded the time that we took from you. You've been very busy. And thank you for all the extremely honorable guests who've been with us today. And in fact, I cannot really express my thanks. And Shreya has been so excited to meet you. And we have met you today, though virtually. And better times, I'm sure we'll meet you. We'll call you for a session physically.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Shreya. It's been wonderful. And I love the questions. It's been very thought-provoking. And it gave me a chance to reflect from different dimensions of Chanakya. Looking forward for more face-to-face interactions.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us. We keep on doing these literature series. We have a YouTube channel called Trends Events. So you can find other authors there as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pillai.
Thank you. Goodbye.